So I don't know if you know this about me. I actually hate the term buyer consultation because a buyer consultation is realtor term. That's what you want them to have. Really, what they want to have is they don't want a buyer consultation. They don't even want a realtor. It's not that they don't want one. They just don't care about any of that stuff. They just want a home. So a first-time home buyer webinar is let's say the 5 steps to getting into your first home. But I would say even better. I like to use and this might sound a bit off when I initially say it, but I like to use negative words more than positive. And the reason is because according to behavioral psychology, people are up to 300% more compelled to take action by fear of losing something than by the desire to get something. Meaning people hate losing $100 3 times as much as they like getting $100, basically. So if you're running a first-time home buyer webinar, it could be like the 6 biggest mistakes that first-time home buyers make, for example. And then basically you just frame the buyer consultation, which you've already got set up, your buyer presentation, into that webinar. You can run a webinar like this, let's say every single month, a live webinar. The other thing is just taking this another step farther. Once you've done your webinar, you can have it set up, have a landing page that somebody can sign up for your first time home buyer webinar. And then they click on the ad, they go to the landing page, and then the webinar basically says starting in 2 minutes, let's say, and that's automated. And then it feels like it's live. And then they just hang on for 2 minutes. They watch the webinar. And then right then and there, they clicked on your ad. They watch the webinar basically right afterwards. And then it says, and if you want to make this happen, give me a call. This is my number. And then I'll call you up. And that's how we're going to get in front of as many of these people as possible. And remember, scaling is all about working while you're not working. Yes. And an ad can do that. Okay. So I think the biggest misconception when it comes to ads is like people say that ads produce really bad leads, and like, well, they kind of do, but like it's not as simple as that. And I think the cool thing about this is it's not even like it doesn't matter about the quality of the lead right now, because you're getting somebody who clicks on the ad, and if they watch the webinar, then they are inherently qualified, and if they don't watch the webinar, then they're inherently unqualified, like disqualified. Like it's just a very simple equation. You know what I mean? So there's so many things that you could set up also to see how much of the webinar was actually watched, that even after they, let's say, sign off and they don't give you a call, you can then call them afterwards and say, hey, I know, and you saw in your head, let's say they watched 43% of the webinar. You can then call them back and be like, hey, I noticed that you watched the webinar. What did you think? And they say, well, I actually got to cut off halfway through, but yeah, it seemed pretty good. And then you can take the conversation from there. So I think a first-time home buyer webinar, for me, I know it's a really simple kind of conversation right now that we're having, but I think that that's the best opportunity.